Amazing blind date revealed. One girl's touching connection transformed a millionaire CEO's autism struggles. In the vibrant chaos of life as a social worker, Emily felt adrift, often a voice in the void. Each day, she poured her heart into helping others navigate their invisible struggles while grappling with a system strained by budget cuts and unyielding bureaucracy. Imagining a bright future for her clients felt futile as she watched the dream of a supportive community slip further from her grasp. Doubt seeped into her spirit, a relentless whisper questioning her effectiveness. Despite the noble path she chose, there were the sleepless nights fueled by anxiety that gnawed at her resolve. Could she truly make a difference? Her friends, eager to introduce a spark into her mostly monochrome evenings, set her up on a blind date. Little did she know, her date was Ryan, a handsome CEO of a thriving tech company. In a cozy diner adorned with nostalgic Americana, the atmosphere buzzed, yet Emily sat fidgeting in the vibrant booth, a wave of self-consciousness creeping over her. Initially lost in her thoughts about the mountain of work waiting for her at the office, she couldn't shake the prickling worry about being judged for her lack of success outside her profession. All the while, Ryan, who typically commanded boardrooms with confidence, was inwardly battling his own suffocating nerves. The uncomfortable silence lingered. Emily's regular scent of coffee from the locals reminded her of the unpredictable rhythm of life, one moment exhilarating, the next daunting. As they began to talk, she animatedly described her vision of providing support for children with disabilities. The passion in her voice pierced through Ryan's seemingly polished exterior, striking a chord he hadn't quite acknowledged. He wanted to reveal his true self, the one hidden behind layers of corporate armor. Yet, the memories of a turbulent childhood and his daily masks stifled him. How could he express such vulnerability to a stranger? Inwardly, he wrestled between confronting the image he had cultivated versus the raw truth simmering beneath his surface. Emily's relentless hopefulness clashed with Ryan's growing sense of impending doom. An impending corporate restructuring loomed like a dark cloud over him. With each passing moment, he felt the pressure mounting, decisions that could decimate livelihoods, including his own credibility. The thought made his palms sweat, as he fought against the tickling anxiety that threatened to consume him. Would he carry the burden of those who relied on him, or would he retreat back into the shadows of corporate anonymity? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Emily caught a glimpse of Ryan's hesitance, the slight tremble of his hands betraying a worry he masked with charming smiles. As authentic engagement unfolded, her determination surged. Somewhere in his guarded expressions lay a kindred spirit yearning for connection. The tension swelled around them, an electric charge spiraling toward vulnerability. They were both dangling on the precipice. Emily drew closer to revealing the depths of her aspirations, while Ryan struggled against his instinct to hide within a shield of ambition. As night cocooned the diner, both grappled with the weight of unspoken truths, the shared understanding that success wasn't just about personal victories. Emily's heart raced as she realized she was losing herself in the potential of this connection. Would Ryan crumble under the expectations of his role, or would he seize the moment to rewrite his narrative? With the simmering conflict rising to an unbearable peak, the stakes intensified, and the future hung precariously in the balance. Emily sensed the surreal atmosphere tighten around them, thick with unspoken fears and long-buried truths. As Ryan leaned back, tightening his grip on the table's edge, she felt an urgency inside her, a call to breach the conventional barriers they both hid behind, however briefly. "What's your biggest fear?" she blurted, surprising herself with the bluntness. It was a risk to invite such vulnerability, but the diner felt like a sanctuary, their awkwardness melting under the warmth of shared humanity. He hesitated, eyes darting as if searching for an honest answer hiding in a stack of rehearsed responses. "Failure," Ryan admitted finally, his voice a low murmur, barely breaking through the din of the other patrons. Not living up to the expectations of my employees, investors, my family. Each word felt heavy with his internal struggle, peeling away the veneer that usually shielded him. Emily felt a pang of empathy, recognizing the universal weight of such expectations. A sudden realization washed over her: she could relate. Her own fears were stitched into the very fabric of her being, yet she faced them daily in the courtroom and crumbling offices of the system she fought against. What if we redefine failure? She suggested impulsively. What if it means learning and growing instead? The idea sparked inside her like a fire igniting dry kindling. They weren't meant to be fixed, they were meant to adapt and evolve despite and because of their struggles. Ryan watched her with a newfound intrigue, the light of understanding flickering in his eyes. He was drawn to her perspective, a stark contrast to the cutthroat mentality of the corporate world. You think so? His disbelief was evident, but curiosity softened his tone. Yes, she affirmed earnestly, her conviction building momentum. The system we're in, it's flawed. I mean, I see it every day when I watch children fall through cracks because their needs don't fit neatly into boxes. Her heart raced, a swell of purpose compelling her to speak up with uncharacteristic boldness. She felt the weight of responsibility beam through their connection, an echo of both their struggles colliding into this moment. And you? With everything you carry, can you allow yourself to be human too? To show vulnerability? With every question, Emily probed deeper, inviting Ryan to confront the mask he wore so comfortably. He shifted in his seat, emotions threatening to spill over as he grappled with the duality of his identity. It's hard, to balance it all, he finally admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Maybe it doesn't have to be a balance, she countered, feeling bold with the push of their shared honesty. We could own our vulnerabilities and use them as a source of strength. He stared at her, silently contemplating this radical idea. Emily's own conviction began to dissolve something within her, rousing a sense of clarity about her path. Perhaps she didn't just want to help others, she wanted to transform how they viewed their setbacks. This meeting, this face-to-face collision of their realities, was fertile ground for growth. Silence lingered, but its weight was different now, more profound, charged with possibility. Suddenly Emily felt like they were standing at a crossroads, where choices lay ahead, cloaked in uncertainty but radiant with potential. Then, just as vulnerability seemed on the verge of unfolding fully, the diner door swung open, a cold draft slicing through their warmth. An old acquaintance of Ryan's entered, someone who belonged to his corporate life, and a flicker of panic crossed his face. It was a reminder that the world from which he sought refuge was never far away. As Ryan straightened in his seat, the tension thickened again, a wall rebuilding between them as the past clawed for his attention. Emily recognized the shift instantly. If he retreated now, he would bury not just his chance at openness but the connection they'd begun to forge. Ryan, she prompted, her voice more insistent. This moment matters. Don't let it slip away. The drum of her heart echoed loudly in her ears, the stakes suddenly escalating. Would he reclaim the bravery pulsing through their conversation, or retreat behind familiar walls? With the facade fading, Ryan's gaze locked onto hers, a silent battle brewing. And in that heartbeat of stillness, the future hung in precarious uncertainty, revealing the deeper truth of their intertwined journeys. What choice would define them both? Ryan's eyes flicked toward the entrance, a flood of apprehension coursing through him as the familiar figure approached, exuding confidence in a tailored suit that reeked of success and entitlement. It was almost suffocating. Emily's voice droned out the chatter of the diner, but only barely. Ryan. She squeezed the table's edge as if anchoring him to this moment. Think of all you just shared. This is your chance. For a moment, his chest tightened, caught between two worlds, this intimate sanctuary, where sharing fears felt like liberation, and the corporate battlefield waiting outside the door, demanding professionalism, decorum, and silence. Her words touched a raw nerve, a reminder that he couldn't continue to compartmentalize his life. He started, halting as his voice cracked. The words jumbled, stumbling like errant thoughts seeking order. I can't just blow it all up. There's so much at stake. The gravity of his obligations hung heavily in the air. Is it worth living a lie? She pressed. The fervor in her voice pulled him back from the brink of retreat. The figure was almost upon them, a colleague, Ryan recognized. Eyes locked with Emily S., he found himself at the edge of a precipice. If he stepped forward, he risked everything, a reputation built on impeccable performance and unmoving control. If he retreated, he confronted the chilling reality of his own stagnation and disappointment. Remember, Emily urged, this conversation isn't just about your fears, it's also about discovering who you can become without them. He exhaled sharply through clenched teeth, squaring his shoulders as if bracing for whatever storm awaited. The weight of expectation pressed down his family's unwavering pride, the eyes of investors who could turn their backs at a moment's notice. But, here with Emily, he imagined a different future, one infused with authenticity and clarity. Maybe I've been looking at it all wrong, he whispered, almost to himself. The realization sent ripples of conflict through him. Could he afford to redefine success? Could he invite vulnerability into his boardroom? I can't be perfect, he murmured, more to the thoughts swirling in his mind than to Emily. That's what they expect. Or maybe that's what you expect of yourself. Each word was calibrated, striking the inner walls he built brick by brick. What if imperfection were part of your strength? It's human to falter. He considered this a different lens to peer through. Emily's perspective shone like a light through a fogged window, illuminating glimpses of a more vibrant life. Each heartbeat echoed the reminder that every leader he admired also faced pitfalls. What had they learned? What path had they forged through adversity? Just then, as if summoned, his colleague spotted them and strode over, breaking the fragile moment. Ryan, he called, his demeanor all business, eyes flicking to take in the unfamiliarity of Emily's presence. What are you doing here? The question hung like a noose, taut with expectation. Ryan's heart raced, knowledge that the choice was in his hands: speak the truth or succumb to the ease of his facade. Emily remained still, an unwavering pillar of support, her presence bolstered him, firing a sense of purpose within. Actually, Ryan replied, infused with an unexpected clarity, I'm just discovering that there's more to life than meeting expectations. The words tumbled forth, imperfect but unapologetic, as he pushed through the panic gripping him. I want to explore what it means to truly lead, not just in business but in life. An audible silence fell within the diner, that same surreal atmosphere wrapping itself around their table again, only this time heavier with resolution. His colleague's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief, irritation flickering briefly, then masking itself with a calculated smile. Emily's smile quietly broke the tension hanging in the air, but their connection vibrated with new life, a mutual recognition that they were, perhaps for the first time, being genuine with themselves and one another. But before Ryan could savor his small victory, he noticed the frown creeping onto his colleague's face, a questioning glance, an overt challenge issued through the realm of corporate politics. Challenges that could demarcate his future. Let us see if you make it through the week, he muttered, casting one last glance at Emily before turning sharply to leave. Ryan felt the gravity of the situation shift underfoot, a subtle tremor of consequences rippling through him. Would his courage hold against the machinations of expectation? As he turned back to Emily, excitement crackled in the air, galvanizing his senses. The thrill of vulnerability was intoxicating, but it was laced with uncertainty. What awaited him next? Would he find the strength to navigate this uncharted territory, or would he revert to the comfort of his past? A moment of truth was coming, he could feel it looming on the horizon, one that would demand everything he had. The world around Ryan blurred as he stood on the edge of transformation, his heart pounding in sync with the shifting tides of his ambition. He felt the weight of Emily's gaze, a steadying influence that urged him to dig deeper into his newfound resolve. The diner had become a crossroads, a space where he could embrace authenticity or retreat into the shadows of superficiality. As he watched his colleague walk away, a sense of exhilaration pulsed through him. For the first time, he had uttered words that resonated with truth, his truth. Each syllable rebuked the notion that success was solely defined by outward achievements, instead hinting at a richer, more profound understanding of leadership. But beneath the excitement lay a tremor of uncertainty. The reality of corporate dynamics loomed large, and he felt the familiar grip of anxiety tightening around his chest. "Are you okay?" Emily's voice broke through his thoughts, grounding him in the moment. "Yeah, he paused, seeking clarity in the swirling chaos of his mind. "I never thought I would say something like that. I feel exposed." "Exposed can be good," she replied, her smile offering him comfort amid confusion. "It means you're shedding the heavy mantle of perfection." Ryan couldn't help but think back to the expectations that had shaped him what it meant to be the best, to meet every target, and the pressure that came with it. Those expectations now felt like chains weighing him down. But what if it backfires? What if they see this vulnerability as weakness? True leadership doesn't fear vulnerability, it embraces it. It connects with people on a human level, showing them that struggle is part of the journey. She leaned in closer, her intensity elevating the atmosphere. "You're still a professional, and with authenticity comes trust. You might find people appreciate you more." Her words resonated, creating flickering sparks of hope in Ryan's core. Trust. There it was, the missing ingredient in the formula he had followed for so long. He had built relationships on performance metrics and profit margins, not on the substratum of shared humanity. "What do I do now?" he asked, his voice tinged with both urgency and fragility. "Act on your instincts. Start small. Share your thoughts in a meeting, or take a moment to connect with a colleague about something beyond work. You don't have to overhaul everything overnight." Ryan chewed over her advice, feeling an internal shift. He could envision himself in the boardroom, leading discussions not just with charts but with stories that reflected his journey, his uncertainties, his path toward authenticity. Slowly but surely, he could chip away at the facade he'd constructed. As the weight began to lift, the bell above the diner door jingled again, and another familiar face walked in, a mentor from his company, someone who had groomed him for leadership roles since his early days. A wave of discomfort washed over Ryan. He felt exposed again, as if this revelation would somehow be visible on his face. "Remember," Emily murmured, tracking his shift in comfort. "You're in control of this narrative." The mentor approached their table, his presence commanding yet friendly. "Ryan, great to see you. I didn't expect to find you here." His gaze flicked to Emily, momentarily assessing before landing back on Ryan. "Everything all right?" "Actually, yes," Ryan replied, surprising himself with the conviction in his voice. "It's a chance for me to reflect on what it means to lead and connect, beyond just the numbers." The last word felt like a private revolution, echoing the layers of ambition and humanity he now wanted to explore. The mentor's brow furrowed, registering surprise, but there was also something else: curiosity, perhaps. "Interesting perspective. Let's chat about it later in the office." Ryan nodded, feeling the pulse of determination returning. He had leaned into the discomfort, and now the cracks in the armor began to widen, allowing light to filter through. He didn't have all the answers, but he recognized the power of his journey was about to unfold. This was just the beginning. As Emily smiled at him, a spark ignited between them, one that promised growth and alliance. "Remember, this is just the start," she encouraged quietly. "Face the week with curiosity, not fear." As he left the diner, the air grew crisp, invigorating his mind with possibilities. Encountering those who challenged his evolution would be the true test. Could he sustain this authenticity when confronted with the cold winds of corporate culture? For now, he only knew that change was within reach, yet the real question loomed over him like a storm cloud. Would he rise to meet it, or would fear draw him back into the shadows he had fought to escape? The answers awaited him in the boardroom and beyond. The sun hung low as Ryan walked toward the office, each step increasing his awareness of the burgeoning change within him. He replayed Emily's words in his mind like a mantra, allowing them to settle, comfortable yet challenging. The lobby was buzzing with the usual morning chatter, but it felt different today. Ryan inhaled deeply, anchoring himself as he stepped into the elevator. The mirror reflected a face he barely recognized, someone shedding the armor he thought necessary for success. His mentor's impending conversation loomed in his thoughts, blending excitement with unease. Did the mentor sense the shift in him? Would he support this new version of Ryan, or would he push back against it? The elevator dinged, snapping him back to reality, and he exited with purpose, ready to confront the day. The first meeting of the day was the weekly team check-in. As he settled into his chair with colleagues around him, secrecy hung thick in the air, a typical corporate veneer. As the agenda moved through monotonous updates and figures, Ryan felt the urge to break away from that suffocating rhythm. He coughed lightly, drawing attention. I think we should address how our individual strengths could align more effectively with our current challenges. Mutters of confusion passed through the room, his boldness was unexpected. Ryan, his supervisor interjected, raising an eyebrow. Are you suggesting we make our meetings personal? Focus on our feelings during discussions? A laughter line etched across the faces of a few senior executives. Ryan's stomach tightened, but he pushed through it. Not feelings, exactly. I mean cultivating our strengths and sharing them. I believe that understanding our personal drives can fuel our performance as a team. If we're transparent about where we excel or struggle, we could build something stronger than mere numbers. His pulse quickened when silence enveloped him. A few minutes ticked by as he studied his colleagues, their expressions veiled but scrutinizing. Then, one colleague leaned forward, breaking the quiet. That's actually insightful. I think I could share some of my struggles in my role. The quiet encouragement was an unexpected bomb. Thanks, Emily, he replied, catching her gaze across the table. Her unwavering support ignited a spark in him, and he pressed on, leading the conversation into a vulnerable space. It's not easy to admit when we falter, but it matters. I know I've struggled with. He hesitated, bearing the remnants of his complexity. Balancing the data with the human element. I'm working on it. The response was less hostile than he imagined. A few others nodded, they began exchanging stories of their own hurdles. It was exhilarating, the atmosphere shifted from a sterile review of performance to an unexpected camaraderie that left him both anxious and alive. As the meeting drew to a close, Ryan felt invigorated. Pride surged over him like a wave. The seeds of vulnerability he had planted began to sprout, connected people beyond facades layered thick with expectations. He knew it wouldn't be an easy road, however. He would face challenges from those entrenched in traditional paradigms. Casting a glance back to his mentor, Ryan noticed keen interest shimmering in the older man's eyes. Perhaps the unexpected reaction would resonate further than he anticipated. In the aftermath, he felt alive in a new way, more connected to his colleagues, but simultaneously preparing for the trials ahead. Yet deep down lurked a poignant fear: if his authenticity continued to bloom, would it affect his standing in the company? Would the rewards of openness come at the cost of his career stability? Those questions simmered like a brewing storm, and just as he was about to drown in contemplation, a message from Emily lit his phone. Let's celebrate your first bold step tonight. We need drinks. He grinned, excitement conflicting with uncertain dread as he sighed, ready to face this growth outside the office walls. Was he ready to explore his authenticity in the personal realm? He glanced at the reflection in a window as he stepped into the sunlight. A hint of anticipation hung in the air, but with it shadowed the question: what barriers would he confront next, and was he truly prepared to navigate the deeper waters of personal connection? Ryan's heart was a volatile mixture of exhilaration and trepidation as he stepped into the bar later that evening. The ambient chatter, the clinking of glasses, and the laughter of patrons played a rhythmic background to his uncertainty. This was a new frontier, not just in regard to his career but about himself, an invitation to embrace authenticity fully. That he spotted Emily at a corner table, her infectious smile cutting through his apprehensions. She waved him over, and as he made his way toward her, he couldn't help but marvel at how quickly she had become a pillar of support in such a short time. Look at you, all brave and bold after today's meeting. Emily teased, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "I think you deserve a drink for that." Ryan settled into the seat opposite her, a tentative smile growing on his face. However, amid the light banter and laughter, he felt an undercurrent of tension and nagging anxiety about whether this newfound approach would withstand scrutiny outside the confines of the office walls. "Thanks to you, really. Your support made me push myself," he replied, lifting his glass of beer in a half-hearted toast. They shared easy banter about the day, but Ryan clearly sensed a simmering depth in this interaction. The space between them felt laden with something unspoken, a potential that hovered right at the surface. They shifted topics, discussing aspirations and fears, slowly peeling away the layers of professional facades. This wasn't just a celebration, it felt like a revelation. "You know," Ryan said, leaning closer, "I've spent so long trying to fit into a role that I thought was necessary for success. It's both exhilarating and terrifying to be real." Emily studied him with an intensity that made Ryan's pulse quicken. "Being real is the only way to truly connect," she replied, her voice softened but firm. "If we don't allow ourselves to be vulnerable, how can we expect our colleagues to? You definitely took a step in the right direction today." Her words stung with the realization that, while he was beginning to embrace vulnerability in professional spaces, he had yet to carry that same honesty into his personal life. His interactions with her felt timid, restrained by fear of missteps, by what might lie ahead. "What if it costs me the standing I've built?" Ryan blurted, the question causing a palpable tension that made Emily pause. "Is it worth it, if it makes you miserable?" She fired back, her demeanor shifting to serious. "You owe it to yourself to seek connections that matter more than titles and positions." The weight of her challenge settled over him, a reality he had skimmed over but never truly faced. The implication that his value could be defined beyond his role gnawed at him, pulling at layers of his sense of self he had yet to comprehend. As the night wore on, Ryan felt a building urge to confront that uncertainty both with Emily and within himself. He had just taken strides toward openness, yet he was still retreating into self-imposed limits. "We should see what lies ahead," Ryan spoke softly, the internal storm within him beginning to settle. The desire to venture deeper into authenticity enveloped him. But just as a moment of clarity washed over him, Emily's phone buzzed, interrupting their conversation. She glanced at it and her expression shifted. A look akin to concern flickered in her eyes. "Hey, I need to head out. There's been a family emergency," she said, standing abruptly. Ryan felt a sudden sense of loss, as if shadows crept back along the edges of their conversation. The night felt unfinished without the chance to delve deeper into that connection, and Ryan was left grappling with a profound realization. Would the personal barriers he had yet to confront keep him from forging the connection he so deeply craved? "I want to explore where this goes," he called after her, his words punctuated with resolve. But would his newfound willingness to embrace vulnerability survive the uncertainties that lay ahead? And who would be there to guide him as he navigated the uncharted territories of personal connection? Ryan sat alone at the table after Emily rushed out, the gentle hum of the bar now feeling like a heavy fog surrounding him. He lifted his glass to his lips but paused, staring into the amber liquid, a reflection of his swirling thoughts. Her challenge echoed in his mind, punctuating the air around him as clearly as if she had spoken it again. "Is it worth it, if it makes you miserable?" Was he truly miserable? The adrenaline from stepping out of his comfort zone had brought him so much closer to a version of himself he barely recognized. His heart raced with the aftershocks of their conversation, still charged with the desire to explore that new pathway. He confirmed silently that he wanted to embrace vulnerability, but how could he sustain that longing without slipping back into the shadows of the self he had meticulously constructed over the years? Determined, Ryan set down his drink and pulled out his phone, opening a note-taking app. He began to jot down his thoughts, pouring out the fears, desires, and possibilities that flickered in his mind. Each word felt like a step deeper into self-discovery, yet a nagging apprehension lingered. Would this journey lead him to isolation rather than connection? In the weeks that followed, Ryan made a conscious effort to challenge himself in everyday scenarios, whether it was a quip in meetings or meaningful conversations with colleagues. He found solace in the intricate balance of honesty and professionalism. Yet, as he encouraged others to share their opinions more openly, he felt the layers of his facade peel back slowly, revealing both fragility and strength underneath. But the more he leaned into this authenticity, the more he felt the gulf between his public and private lives widening. At the office one afternoon, he overheard a discussion at the water cooler. Jenna, a colleague he had long perceived as driven yet distant, was sharing a personal experience about a recent family crisis. Ryan felt the familiar pull of empathy, and without thinking through the implications, he joined their conversation. "I understand that feeling," he said, recalling his own struggles to connect with family over the years. This unexpected admission seemed to shift the dynamic. Ryan found Jenna opening up, as if she had been waiting for someone to breach that wall. By the end of the brief exchange, he caught the warmth of camaraderie hanging in the air, a satisfying contrast to the cold professionalism he had long defended. However, the exhilaration faded as doubt surged. Had he overstepped? Did he risk stigma for sharing a piece of himself? He spent the following days analyzing the encounter, drawing on both the positive response it had elicited and the stern whisperings of his more cautious inner voice. In confrontational moments, he noticed how his newfound willingness to embrace vulnerability began to challenge others around him. Some reacted positively, opening up and fostering a deeper dialogue. Yet others retreated uncomfortably. Ryan realized not everyone shared the same appreciation for raw honesty. That Friday night, bundled in a wave of uncertainty, he received a spontaneous invitation from one of the senior executives to join a small, informal gathering. The thought of mingling felt daunting. As he prepared for the evening, Ryan faced the mirror, a reflection of someone who yearned to be vulnerable yet was acutely aware of the stakes. Would this gathering be another chance to pursue deeper connections, or would it only illuminate the risks of being himself in a world that often rewarded reservation and detachment? He straightened his collar, fortifying himself for the night. "It's just people," he reminded himself, although a flicker of apprehension ignited within him. What would happen when he decided to shed the last unwilling vestiges of his previous self? As he stepped out into the cool night air, Ryan couldn't shake the sense of impending revelation as he took the first steps toward the crossover between personal and professional authenticity. But an even heavier question loomed within him. How far was he willing to go? With that thought echoing through his mind, Ryan felt drawn deeper into his exploration of self. Would he bravely embrace the potential for rejection, or would his fear dictate his night? The decision was imminent, and he could feel it brewing just beneath the surface. As Ryan entered the sleek, dimly lit venue, he felt a swell of emotions vying for dominance: anticipation, doubt, fear. The room buzzed with laughter and animated conversations, people mingling with an ease that felt both enticing and alien to him. How had he reached this point? An invitation extended not just because of his impressive resume but for whom he was becoming. He had had moments of vulnerability before, yes, small risks taken during meetings or casual office banter, but surrounded by senior executives and influential decision-makers, the stakes felt infinitely higher. Each face in the room represented a potential judgment, and the pressure surged to revert to his protective shell. Ryan scanned the crowd, his heart racing as he mentally prepared a few light-hearted anecdotes to share. He spied Cassandra, the executive who had invited him. There she was, captivating and confident, effortlessly commanding attention as she spoke to a group at the bar. Perhaps if he could get a word in with her, that would validate his presence here. Fueled by a surge of determination, Ryan mustered the courage to approach. "Hey, Cassandra," he said, his voice stronger than he felt. "Thanks for inviting me. I wasn't sure if I would come." Her smile was warm, drawing him in. "I'm glad you did. It's nice to see someone who can bring a fresh perspective." He felt buoyed by her words, a small validation that his evolving self was starting to be recognized. Emboldened, he took a breath and decided to take her compliment further. "I've been working on being more open and approachable lately," he admitted, testing the response his vulnerability would elicit. "It's been challenging, but worth it." "Oh really? I'd love to hear more about that," Cassandra replied, her interest piqued. Ryan realized he had stepped into a deeper conversation, a conversation that could reveal more than just his professional ambitions. But what would happen if he opened up? Would he become the odd man out in a room filled with polished executives? Fateful doubt rose to kiss him as he recalled his initial hesitations. What if this was the moment to show others who he truly was? He felt the tension rise again, but something in him pushed past the fear. I used to think that maintaining an image was everything. But being real has opened doors, you know. I've discovered that being authentic can actually bring people closer. The moment lingered between them, a tantalizing flicker of connection. Cassandra nodded, her keen eyes reflecting understanding. I think that's important, especially in our industry. People appreciate honesty. It leads to genuine relationships. Ryan cherished her affirmation as a fire ignited within him. He felt that crack in the protective layers he had worn for so long widen just a bit. If he could share this with her, perhaps there was more he could express. As conversations swirled around him, he took a step back mentally, observing his thoughts like passing clouds. Could this be a transformative moment? The realization settled in that showing his true self wasn't just a risk, it could also be an opportunity to inspire others to engage more freely. That he needed to explore this budding skill of authentic connection further and see where it could lead. Perhaps, just perhaps, it was not merely about protecting himself, but also about creating a shelter for others to step into the light of vulnerability together. But after that brief encounter, an unwelcome voice interrupted. What if this was just a fluke? What if vulnerability attracted rejection more often than connection? Was he setting himself up for disappointment? As he debated these possibilities in the depths of his mind, the palpable energy of the event pressed against him, demanding action. He could either retreat and stand at the fringe of this evolution or take a leap into the unknown. Filled with uncertainty yet compelled to leap forward, Ryan decided to engage with others in the room, risking the fissures of doubt that threatened to encase him once more. As he made his way through the crowd, he realized that he was teetering on the edge of a deeper understanding of who he was, a crucial moment that would define his ambitions and his relationships. The question remained, though, could he sustain this newfound openness amidst such potential vulnerability? Or would the comforting yet stifling shadows he had inhabited for too long reclaim him? Before he had a chance to shine, determined, Ryan moved forward into the crowded room, his heartbeat synchronized with the rhythm of opportunity and impending revelations, ready for whatever momentous decision awaited him next. The warmth of the venue's atmosphere seemed to shrink around Ryan as he navigated deeper into the crowd. Each interaction felt like stepping onto a precarious tightrope, between the hope of connection and the fear of judgment. He observed small clusters of conversations, executives exchanging ideas, and influencers sharing opinions, but each group felt like a world unto itself, and he was tethered just outside that. In those first few moments, he focused on the sounds around him, a blend of laughter, clinking glasses, and spirited debates that filled the air. They painted a picture of camaraderie he longed to be part of. Yet, in his gut, a fear gnawed at him: rejection. The thought that he might stand vulnerable in his authenticity and receive closed-off reactions was daunting. Determined to silence that voice, Ryan took stock of the tools he had cultivated. With each analytical breath, he reflected on his conversations with Cassandra, as if her insights were a compass guiding him through this uncharted territory. Authenticity. Transparency. Those were not merely buzzwords, they had become anchors he could cling to amidst the turbulence of these interactions. That he spotted a group near the back of the room engaged in a heated discussion about an upcoming project. Seizing the moment, he made his way towards them, the weight of his intention heavy on his shoulders. As he approached, he considered how to position himself as both an observer and a contributor, a delicate balance that required poise. Ryan cleared his throat. I couldn't help but overhear your discussion about the new initiative. It sounds intriguing. May I join? His voice carried an eagerness he hadn't anticipated. The group turned, and for a moment, he felt the full weight of their scrutiny, but it was softened by a brief nod from one of the executives, a man with salt and pepper hair who smiled warmly. Of course. We were just debating the marketing strategy, the man replied, gesturing for Ryan to step closer. What's your take? Ryan jumped in, his hesitation dissolving into a rush of ideas. As he spoke, He felt the familiar nervous energy begin to transform into something more potent, a conviction rooted in belief. He folded in the concept of authentic messaging, leveraging storytelling that resonated on a personal level. The executives nodded. With each thoughtful nod, the visceral tension in his chest began to ease, his focus shifted from self-preservation to collaboration, noting how the group responded not just to his words but to his newfound openness. As they engaged back and forth, he felt like a true participant, no longer teetering on the edges but rather stepping into the circle of trust and respect. Amidst this exchange, he caught glimpses of vulnerability from the others. A younger analyst shared a mistake from a previous campaign, revealing how it shaped his understanding of risks. The connection ignited. Ryan recognized that shared imperfections could reinforce their authenticity, forming bonds that extended beyond superficial professionalism, but as the conversation flowed, an inner voice whispered for caution. Was he misreading the situation? Was this comfort just temporary, a fleeting mirage of connection? The underlying fear threatened to creep back in. Soon after, the group began dispersing, and Ryan felt that familiar encroaching doubt. What if this was the climax of that moment, the peak of his vulnerability leading to a swift drop back into his reserved shell? He knew he had to take an additional step, a calculated risk to maintain this connection and momentum. Could we continue this discussion? I'd love to hear more about your experiences, Ryan suggested, his voice steadier than he felt, attempting to encircle them with a sense of camaraderie. The hint of surprise in their faces quickly shifted to agreement, and one by one, they exchanged contact information. In that simple action lay a promise, a signal that connection had been made. Yet as he walked away, his heart soared at this breakthrough moment, paradoxically laced with the bitter aftertaste of self-doubt. The evening had unfolded in unexpected ways, and the challenge ahead loomed large. Could he maintain this level of connection and authenticity in the inevitable face of future rejection? Determined to navigate both the beauty and the chaos of this newfound engagement, Ryan stepped away from safety and toward the unknown. He understood now that his growth lay not just in the moments of triumph, but in the struggle of establishing and maintaining this vulnerability. But lingering thoughts churned within. Would this connection withstand the test of time and circumstance? The flickering promise of transformation beckoned him, urging him forward into a future filled with possibilities and looming questions. Once the sun's warm rays cast shadows on the familiar streets surrounding his office, Ryan stood at the entrance, reflecting on his journey. No longer burdened by the chains of expectation, he had fully embraced the transformative power of authenticity. Each day had presented challenges that tested his newfound resolve, yet the struggles only fueled his growth. Today, as he walked through the revolving door, he knew he was stepping into the next chapter not just as a leader, but as a human being. In the weeks since he first opened up to his colleagues, Ryan had cultivated a deep reservoir of connection and trust within his team. They no longer operated solely with spreadsheets and strategic plans. Conversations transformed, infused with the honest sharing of experiences, the fears, the victories, the lessons learned. Each meeting became an opportunity to reinforce their shared humanity, allowing for a profound sense of camaraderie. Today, Ryan faced a pivotal moment. A major project loomed, a presentation to a consortium of investors who valued hard results above all else. Traditionally, he would have rehearsed his pitch meticulously, ensuring every statistic shone. But this time was different. As he reviewed the slides, he infused his narrative with elements of vulnerability, personal anecdotes that illustrated why this project mattered to him, to the team, to the community they served. He hoped to inspire genuine engagement rather than mere transactional interest. Standing on the edge of the conference room, he felt a swell of confidence. Understanding that authenticity attracted others became a cornerstone of his identity. He scanned the room to see familiar faces, each one a testament to the relationships he had nurtured. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, ready to redefine success. As he began to speak, he wove the compelling themes of risk-taking and learning from failures into his vision. The narrative reflected his own evolution from a corporate warrior clad in perfection to a leader embracing imperfection. We're not just creating a product, we're building something that can change lives, driven by our shared experiences and the vulnerabilities that shape our vision, Ryan shared. The once sterile room buzzed with energy. Investors leaned forward, their interest visibly piqued. Ryan noticed nods of understanding, the shift in dynamics confirming his belief that authenticity resonated far more than polished outputs. The initial walls began to crumble, as he directly engaged with the investors, inviting their thoughts and insights. Feedback flowed reciprocal, each interaction a heartbeat of shared purpose. The conversation evolved organically, blurring lines between corporate image and genuine connection. By the end, they had built an alliance, not merely a transaction but a vision of shared responsibility and mutual ambition. Walking out of that boardroom, Ryan felt elated. Not only had he secured critical support for the project, but he had redefined the culture surrounding success within his team. His internal victory radiated, reinforcing a sense of fulfillment he had yearned for but never quite grasped. Throughout the day, as colleagues approached him, some with appreciation, others ready to share their own vulnerabilities, he recognized that his ability to lead had shifted dramatically. His bravery in showcasing authenticity inspired others to do the same. No longer did he feel like a lone voice. Instead, he stood at the helm of a thriving community of empathy, resilience, and shared aspirations. The culmination of this profound transformation marked more than just professional acknowledgement. It was a personal reclamation. Each step Ryan took reinforced his belief that vulnerability was not a sign of weakness, but the bedrock of strength. He had shattered the fear-driven shell he had worn for years and had emerged as not just a leader, but a true mentor. Later that evening, he received a text from Emily. "I heard the good news. I'm so proud of you." Her support resonated in his heart, reminding him of the small moments that paved the way to this seismic change. Grinning, he replied, sharing the excitement of his recent triumph while extending an invitation to celebrate. This was the turning point he had longed for. A solid confidence had replaced trepidation, and he finally felt at home in his own skin. With a resolve to continue embracing every imperfection, Ryan glanced outside at the dusky horizon. The world was vast and full of potential. He had conquered not just the boardroom but had also wintered through the storms of personal struggle. He knew the journey ahead would echo with uncertainties, yet its beauty lay in the unknown, the promise of evolving connections and deeper authenticity. The shadows he once feared could only draw closer if he let them. But today, he stood fortified in his identity, ready to navigate it all, and eager for the unfolding path ahead. Now is the moment to support the storytelling that inspires growth and transformation. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that challenge you to evolve. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, ensuring these invaluable narratives reach those who need encouragement. Comment your reactions and theories about Ryan's journey, sharing your insights on how vulnerability reshapes success. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and witness the power of authentic connections.